Friday's midday sun burned like a welding torch, liquefying the asphalt at San Isidro and warping the line between Tijuana and San Diego into a quivering mirage. Precisely at 12:07 p.m., the ordinary lull shattered as a procession of sleek, jet-black, armored SUVs crept toward the booths. Border Patrol agents, sweat pooling beneath their Kevlar, figured they were about to clear a pack of Silicon Valley big shots or a senator's advance team until the tinted windows slid down. The eyes staring back were not proud but hunted, lips clamped tight, knuckles bleaching against the door handles. When the doors finally swung wide, the entire line of travelers went silent. Out stepped 17 members of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman's clan sons, in-laws, nephews. They did not cross as tourists, but as fugitives, heirs to a blood-stained empire now begging protection from the very government they once defied. It had the surreal heft of a Bible story. The children of a fallen titan surrendering without a single shot to the security detail led, quietly, by Mexico's top crime strategist Omar García Harfuch. No sirens, no CNN-worthy shootout, yet the moment crackled with history. What secrets had they carried across that imaginary line? And what tremor would their capitulation send through the criminal kingdom they still represented? If you're still locked in on this operation, drop a quick like and stay on comms. Subscribe so you don't miss the extraction. At the head of the procession was Griselda Lopez Perez, El Chapo's former wife, draped in a designer coat despite a mercury-popping 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Behind her, Rosa Isela Guzman, the eldest daughter, and then Isela Guzman, the niece who once juggled real estate deals in Sinaloa and Jalisco like Wall Street bonds. Bringing up the rear, a young man in a dark cap, jeans, and Balenciaga sneakers, presumed to be Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar, El Gordo, one of the cartel's natural successors. The luggage, 12 gleaming Louis Vuitton Chanel and Rimowa cases, held no assault rifles, no bricks of cash. Instead, family photos, deeds, diamond watches, handwritten letters. Luxury rode shotgun beside fear, proof that the trappings of power were now the only relics these refugees could rescue. Their forged diplomatic passports bore stamps from Dubai, Moscow, Quito, even Caracas. But anyone with a map knew their final destination was not a city, but a bargain. Immunity for information. What the cameras couldn't see was the colder chessboard beyond the checkpoint. For weeks, García Harfuch had choreographed the scene from a secure war room on Mexico City's Paseo de la Reforma, flanked by FBI and DEA liaisons. The mission order was elegant in its simplicity: 0 bullets, 0 corpses, a surgical strike at the Guzman mystique. On May 8th, a coded call from Langley locked in the rendezvous: facilitate the crossing quietly, document every step. 3 Black Hawk helicopters waited on standby at a National Guard base near El Centro, California. 2 DEA rapid response teams were staged in Otay Mesa. Tiny GPS beacons slipped onto the convoy's chassis days earlier, live-streamed positions to encrypted tablets. García Harfuch never appeared on camera. He preferred to leave fingerprints on strategy, not headlines. Could a bloodless gambit shatter what decades of gunfire had not? Their flight had truly begun 2 nights earlier, deep in Jesus Maria, the Guzman stronghold ringed by electrified fences and hidden tunnels. At 3:12 a.m. on May 6th, beneath a copper moon, 3 2023 Suburbans, armor level 6, cloned farm plates, snaked through Badiraguato, skirted Guamuchil, and bypassed Culiacan entirely, racing for a clandestine hangar in Navolato. There, on the same strip once busy with cocaine-stuffed Cessnas, they boarded a Gulfstream 200 bound for Tijuana. 9 hours, door to border, no margin for mistakes. Yet danger lingered in California. DEA scouts, Mexican Marines, and 2 Delta-certified snipers from an Allied intervention unit had mapped every rooftop. The real threat wasn't a U.S. task force, it was betrayal. Splinter cells loyal to Los Chapitos could ambush the motorcade for a bounty or a vendetta. The test came at 12:03 p.m. when a licenseless SUV lunged toward the convoy. 2 curt hand signals from the escorts flipped the playbook. Total lockdown, laser dots on windshields, mobile barriers slammed into place. Not a shot fired, but the message rang louder than gunfire. No one gets in, no one gets out. By twilight, a different drama unfolded 2,500 miles away inside the FBI's Hoover building. There, in a conference room sealed against cell signals, attorneys finalized a thunderclap of a plea deal with Ovidio Guzman Lopez, El Raton, already cooling his heels in an Illinois federal lockup. American prosecutors had been quietly bartering with him for half a year. The ass become a star witness. The price full witness protection coverage for 30-plus relatives, U.S. citizenship papers, and partial amnesty for pre-2021 crimes that stopped short of murder or terrorism. It was a devil's bargain with global aftershocks. Better one capo talking in Virginia than 100 soldiers killing in Culiacan, one State Department aide muttered. When rumor of the pact leaked, cartel mid-managers scattered south to Guatemala, El Salvador, and Colombia. Cleansing purges erupted in Tijuana, Nogales, and Guadalajara. Old alliances shattered faster than a smashed smartphone screen. And in that vacuum, U.S. and Mexican agents saw a rare constellation of leverage, fear, greed, and self-preservation, all pointing a blinking arrow toward cooperation. Back at San Ysidro, customs officers rifled through the Guzman baggage and found an empire in miniature. Griselda's first suitcase, 6 couture watches, including an Audemars Piguet etched JG, diamonds, fake diplomatic IDs from Equatorial Guinea, and a wax-sealed envelope of love letters penned by El Chapo between 2012 and 2015. The second case, notarized deeds for properties in Sinaloa, Quintana Roo, and Dubai. A frayed rosary, vintage family photos, and 2 handwritten diaries. One line in blue ink stabbed the inspector's hearts. Jewels can't shield you from fear when everything you love is armed to the teeth. The third suitcase carried only 5 wooden toys labeled with grandchildren's names, a dog-eared copy of Machiavelli's Prince, and, wrapped in silk, a gilt-framed oil portrait of El Chapo. Gold that once dazzled now gleamed with melancholy. While the family filed past TSA-style scanners, Sinaloa itself burned. The on-again, off-again alliance with the Jalisco New Generation cartel blew apart over botched fentanyl shipments and assassinations in Mazatlan and Los Mochis. 9 weeks, 200 homicides, bodies strung from overpasses, drones dropping improvised explosives on National Guard patrols in Chua, ambushes in Guasav. Intelligence units logged 17 high-level betrayals in 90 days. Plaza bosses switched sides, trading lab coordinates for leniency. This wasn't about money anymore. It was survival. With the fortress of Jesus Maria surrounded by ex-allies, the Guzmans grasped a brutal truth. An empire dies not when the army storms the gate, but when its own sentries flee. Their surrender was less strategy than self-preservation. In Mexico City, García Harfuch watched the dominoes topple from a fortified ops room inside the National Intelligence Center. 5 analysts, 3 cyber operators, a single direct line to the U.S. Embassy, that was his orchestra. President Claudia Sheinbaum's lone command, no blood, no spectacle. So there were no triumphant pressers, no choreographed perp walks, only silence. In a land where headlines can trigger gunfire, silence is a weapon. García Harfuch's doctrine might fit on a bumper sticker. Cartels die by data, not bullets. His method upended the old theater of armored trucks and primetime firefights. This war would be won in sealed boardrooms, not on Instagram. Across the diplomatic channel, Washington matched Mexico's hush. A DOJ task force had already chartered transport to the Witness Security Center in coastal Maryland. By the time the convoy reached Chula Vista, relocation packets were printed, code names assigned. Palacios Nacional issued no comment. Cooperation without cameras. An alliance defined not by treaties, but by zip files and midnight briefings. When the reinforced cabin door of the United States Air Force jet clunked shut at Joint Base Andrews, the Guzman entourage entered a twilight zone of new lives. Some would surface in rural Ohio, others in North Carolina cul-de-sacs where Spanish is rarely heard. Former billion-dollar traffickers now sat through ESL classes, practiced writing checks, and learned how to respond to paper or plastic. Griselda balked. Case files list her as emotionally high risk. She refused to trim her hair, soften her accent, or sign any document that wasn't Griselda Lopez. Her suitcases, letters, rosary, prints, were locked in a WITSEC vault. Agents swear there was defiance, not longing, in her gaze. In contrast, Jesus Alfredo adapted like a Silicon Valley prodigy. Haircut, new wardrobe, smartphone training, conversational English. Hopeful sign or lurking threat. Nobody could say. Because plastic IDs erase names, not memories. As United States officials touted a tactical success, ethicists choked on the question, can architects of horror earn a second life in suburbia, or are we planting seeds for future chaos? Meanwhile, the Sinaloa cartel itself went into freefall. Inside his Illinois cell, Ovidio drip-fed prosecutors' maritime routes, offshore vault codes, politicians on payroll, one of them eyeing the 2030 Mexican presidency. Within 6 weeks, Mexican authorities nabbed 38 logistics chiefs, froze 240 shell corporations, seized 4.6 metric tons of meth in Manzanillo and Lázaro Cárdenas. But the real storm was just beginning. Leaderless micro-gangs sprouting across Costa Rica, Sinaloa, not Central America, Navalado, Guamuchil, young gunmen with no brand loyalty, only hunger. No cartel outlives time or truth. The silence of villages, the tally of the missing, the normalization of dread, those were the Sinaloa cartel's invisible pillars. Now society holds a rare window: dismantle the ecosystem of corruption, abandonment, and indifference, or watch new hydras grow. Are we ready to write a justice script that no longer bows to the narco narrative? High noon at San Isidro is now folklore. That asphalt, once soaked in contraband and shattered promises, doubled as a stage for the empire's negotiated collapse. The Guzmans crossed without firing a bullet, trading notoriety for anonymity. Fresh accents, bargain store aisles, SUV upgrades swapped for used minivans. Is that freedom or a cage without bars? How long can a family smother an infamous surname? Omar García Harfuch, the low-key architect, proved a different playbook is possible. Fewer firefights, more forensic intel, less spectacle, more scalpel. He planted the idea that a state can defeat monsters without becoming one. Yet as legal drafts pile up in D.C. and power brokers reshuffle in Culiacan, Mexico stands at a fork in the road. Seize this rupture as a historic opening, or allow chaos to rush into the void. Violence remembers, power hungers. Only an investment in education, rule of law, and collective dignity can seal the breach. This isn't merely an ending, it's the prologue to a choice. Do we normalize barbarism or build justice with truth, memory, and courage? Save this story, share it, let it jar the next person awake, and ask yourself, is the Americas, on both sides of the border, ready to turn the page on the cartel era?